people didn't like that. She remained quiet for a bit, while the fire cracked comfortingly in the background. Then she uttered softly, "So, we lost the fight, didn't we? Is that why there aren't many of us? Did the supernaturals do that?" The man ran his hand wearily through his military-cut, graying hair, wondering how to explain that, in their desperation, the greatest world leaders of the time had instigated an apocalyptic nuclear war. It had destroyed the fabric of the world, and half of the human population with it. How would he explain that dragon shifters, animal shifters, and vampires now ruled the world? Or that if it wasn't for the dragon's elemental magic, their world would barely be habitable for humans? How could he make the small child, resting so trustfully in his arms, understand that, in this new world order, the fact that she was female made her priceless? 1. It had been a long trek to walk from what used to be Staten Island, that was now, thanks to the dragons, a wilderness occupied by a large pack of wolf-shifters and a few humans and settlements that she had, thus far, managed to avoid. It was a risk coming to the large market outside New Draconia, in the area still known as Brooklyn. Her father had never let her accompany him when he visited to trade, always saying that it was too near the Dragon City for her to be safe. However, her father had insisted, before he died, that she needed to come to Brooklyn Market to barter and buy supplies, like clothing, flour, salt, sugar, and candles, to see her through the long winter. Serenity had taken every precaution to hide her identity, just like her father had taught her. Since his death 6 months ago, she'd had little time to deal with her grief or engulfing loneliness. Her sole purpose was to remain free, to carry on, and not let the grief overwhelm her so that she made mistakes. If she was scared, she refused to admit it. In comparison to the Staten Island market, this one was massive, and she would need all her skills to navigate through it and remain safe. Blessed with an athletic figure, it was easy to disguise her slim curves beneath her father's old camouflage jacket and baggy trousers. A hat pulled low over her head hid her long, corkscrew curly chestnut hair, tied tightly to the back of her neck. A liberal sprinkling of deer urine kept anyone from coming too close and hid her female scent. Lots of dirt completed the disguise of a vagrant young man. Serenity hiked the heavy bag that contained a wild wolf pelt, cured venison, and some of her father's hand-carved children's toys further onto her shoulder. She hated parting with the wooden toys, but they were always very popular and would bring the gold she badly needed to buy other necessities. She sighed when she caught sight of her hands. They were encrusted with mud and dirt that clung to them like a second skin and ringed her nails with a black stain. Of all the injustices in this world, having to remain permanently dirty was the one thing she hated the most. Her father had allowed her to bathe once a week, and for that one night she luxuriated in the delight of feeling clean. The next morning, he would insist she once again cover herself in dirt and a sprinkling of animal musk. She knew it was necessary to remain free and hidden from those supernaturals who would wish to claim her and take away her freedom, but it never became any easier to accept. The sounds and smells of the market intruded on her introspection. Compared to the silence she was used to, it was a cacophony of noise. Human voices blended with the barking of feral dogs. She could hear music and singing in contest with the arguments of bartering, buying, and selling. It was an effort not to be overwhelmed, and she knew she needed to be extra alert. She couldn't afford any mistakes, not this close to the city, although the size of the market did make it easier to hide amongst the tide of humans working, living, and trading there, easier to blend, unnoticed, as one of the many.